Hey guys, this is Crypto Polaris and my name is Zia. We are going to talk all about stablecoin, because there are a lot of things happening this week that this is going to become a household name. So why don't we get started here? Let's go. All right. The agenda is very simple. We are going to talk about stablecoin. What is a stablecoin? You really need to understand because this will have major implications about if there is going to be a big brother watching you when you have stablecoin. It is the reality. There is no way to stop this because there are laws that are being passed this week. Will stablecoin replace USD, your cash? Will there be any cash that people will be using? I think, and I'm going to answer this, it's coming. So, what are the benefits? We're going to go through that. I'm going to talk about two major stablecoin, USDT and USDC. These are the biggest ones that make up $200 billion worth of market cap out of a $250 billion. So these are the two that we're going to primarily talk about. But there's about 50 to 60 stable coins around the world, but most of them have a market cap of below $1 billion. But these two are very large, so we'll talk about that, all right? And then in terms of the regulations, that's why we're here. Things are being voted on today and day after tomorrow. We're going to talk about two laws that are being voted on this week. One is called the Genius Act in the US Senate, and the other one is called Stable Act. That's being voted in the House of Representatives. And we'll talk about what dates and all of that. And last but not least is what is next. So let's dive right in and get to the next slide. All right. What is a stablecoin? Guys, it's obviously, as you guessed, it's a cryptocurrency. That means it runs on blockchain. And when you run things on blockchain, it is completely transparent. So it was created really to have a peg against a dollar or a euro, primarily dollar, 1-to-1. So when you have one US dollar, you will have one USD or USDT, all right? Now, there's a lot of details around it, but it is meant to be, quote unquote, stable. And the reason I put that in double quotes is because obviously we know US dollar is going downhill because of inflation, so is euro and other major currencies. But at least from a stability perspective, when you have these stable coins, you are able to then do all sorts of things that it's not volatile like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana, all right? And so let's keep going here. And the reason also this exists is so you can do transactions, so you can do trading, so you can store your value. Obviously, we say Bitcoin is a store of value, but in a sense that you believe USD is a store of value, arguably, so you can also hold something in a cryptocurrency world that looks and smells just like a actual fiat money. All right, so let's keep going. There are quite a few stable coins. I named some of them here. USDT, USDC, then you got DAI, made by MakerDAO, and then you have PYUSD. You guessed it. Everybody's jumping in. Even our president has a stable coin. All right. So that's made by PayPal. As I mentioned earlier, USDT and USDC make up about $200 billion out of $250 billion worth of market cap right now. Of course, it's going to be growing. So what is stablecoin, more importantly, and how is this becoming a big brother? Anything you do on a blockchain is traceable, right? So the traceability becomes an issue. Now that you're not going to the bank and withdrawing cash and do whatever you want with cash, no one knows what you do with cash. But when you actually get this stable coin, which we're going to talk about, you'll be able to custody it at a bank, and then you can withdraw it, meaning it gets transferred to your wallet electronically, and then you use that. Guess what? People like Amazon and all of those, they have no idea where your cash is going. They only have an idea when you use credit card. So now using USDC and USDT on any transactions in Amazon, outside of Amazon, peer-to-peer transaction, the big brother knows what you're buying. So these are going to turn into behavioral data that these large companies can target you to sell you more products and services. So that is coming. And yes, the government, like any government, if they don't like you, you've done something wrong, you say something against them, Obviously, we have laws in this country that you have to follow, but they could, with the click of a button, stop all your cash, meaning the stablecoin, because you will no longer have cash. I believe the future, there won't be any cash. It will be these cryptocurrency stablecoins. So that'll be interesting to see how the future unfolds. So that's why I say the big brother notion is being introduced rapidly. Okay, what are the benefits? I alluded to it. There's a price stability, right? It's pegged 1-for-1 with the US dollar. Now, there are some combinations that you don't have to be 100% 1-for-1. You could be having a treasury notes, you could be buying gold and try to stabilize as best as you can. And I will do some comparison in the next slide, comparing USDT and USDC in terms of what they hold, okay? Programmability. Obviously, all these stable coins are built on Solana, Ethereum, Algorand, and all of these. They have smart contracts, so that means you can program them to do anything you want. I'll give you an example. You can create some sort of a micropayment system. What does that mean? Let's say I want a kitchen done in my house. I get a contractor to agree to $1,000 to get the kitchen done. Let me rephrase that, probably more like $5,000 to get the kitchen done. I don't want to give him the money up front. Right now, what we do in normal life is, okay, you do 1/3 of the work, then I will give you the cash. You do another third of the work, I'll give you the cash. In this case, you can programmatically agree where the money will get released, assuming certain milestones are met, and it's automatically released. So it really will help in terms of having contracts and agreements. Escrows, when you buy a house, money goes into this programmatic stable coin, then things get released automatically. There is none of these paperwork that you have to do. It's programmed in. So possibilities are endless, guys. Obviously, it's low cost for international transfers. There is no wire needed. With the click of a button, you can transfer. In international wires, you send, let's say, $1,000 or $100, it's going to cost you $50. In this case, you send $100, it's going to cost you 0.0001 penny, as an example of using Solana. So it's very inexpensive to use stablecoins. So those are some benefits. And the other thing that's very important is it really opens up the possibility of the unbanked. There are a lot of people around the world, especially in Africa, that they don't have a banking system, or regular people don't have access to banking system. So they are unbanked. So in this case, all you need is the internet and you're good to go. You can have your own money, hold it in your own wallet, and you can buy goods and services by just doing peer-to-peer transaction. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. DeFi integration, what the heck is a DeFi? Decentralized finance versus traditional financing, where you actually get interest and you get yield farming and all of that. So now DeFi allows you to do this very easily. Obviously, it's meant for cryptocurrency, and stablecoins are crypto. So you can do all sorts of lending, borrowing, and yield farming, which is really nothing more than interest. And that's great. And then the key thing here is interoperability. I can take in USDT and USDC, and they run on right now 17 different blockchains. It doesn't care. I can transfer back and forth. So that's the beauty of these things. You can liken that as two different banks trying to transfer money, and there's all sorts of fees and whatnot. In this case, blockchain. It's so inexpensive. It's going to be 1/100th of a dollar, or 1/1000th of a dollar to send money however much you want back and forth, and on even different blockchains. Okay. Last but not least is transparency. Again, it's very important you understand that anybody who knows your wallet address can see how much money you have and how much you're transferring and all of that. And I'm sure there's going to be some rules and regulations around this down the road, but that's where we're headed, guys. All right, next, what are the differences between USDT and USDC? First of all, who created or founded USDT? A company called Tether, based in Hong Kong. Okay, for USDC, it's Circle. It's a fintech company based in US. In terms of market cap, you can see USDT is 3 times larger than USDC. In terms of what they hold to create this pegging, the USDT primarily holds US treasuries, actual dollars, Bitcoin, gold, and some commercial paper to really have a pegging between 1-to-1. So they're a little bit not as stable compared to USDC, which is primarily cash and US treasuries. So that's pegged even tighter. And when I say their USDT is not as tight, I don't mean it doesn't stay at 1. It's usually 0.99999, or it could be 1.0001. It goes up a little bit, down a little bit because price of Bitcoin and gold. So they've gotten into a lot of hot water in the past, USDT, trying to convince people that they actually have one-to-one backing, and they have been sued and they've settled a lot of these things. Transparency, this is where I think USDC wins. USDC does a monthly attestation, and they're also use large accounting firms to be able to audit them. But again, it's self-attestation. They're self-certifying, saying this is what they have. And I think rules and regulations are coming to be able to oversee all of that, and we're going to talk about that. With the USDT, it's quarterly. So obviously I prefer monthly over quarterly. So it's really, people don't seem to care right now because you can see USDT is 3 times larger than USDC. Okay. And then compliance wise, historically, USDT has been in a lot of trouble. They've settled all of those and they have been brought in line, and it's getting better and better. And of course, USDC always had a very strong compliance around them. Before I said blockchain wise, they both run on 17 different blockchains. Don't know why, coincidentally, there are 1717, but that's what it is. Now, the future, I believe, is very bright for USDC. And that's because of the Genius Act, and the Stablecoin Act kind of favors what USDC is doing. And I think that's going to also force USDT to comply more, which is going to make them buy more USD. And you'll see how that is all interconnected. So let's just talk about regulations and adoptions of stablecoin, okay? There is Genius Act that is running through US Senate at a lightning speed. It was introduced back in February of this year. And there's also Stable Act that is running through in lightning speed in the US House of Representatives. So what is happening here is, by the way, Genius stands for Governing Electronic Non-Bank Issued United Stablecoin Acts. Yes, I had to read that. I can never remember that. But hey, they were genius about coming up with a genius acronym. Stable Act, I don't think is an acronym. It's just called Stable. And so what's happening here is on June 11th, last week, Genius Act has moved forward for the whole floor to vote on. So that's going to pass, guys. Stable Act also is supposed to be voted on technically yesterday, but that was Sunday. I think they're voting on it today, which is the 16th, or tomorrow by the 17th on the Stable Act. And so what's going to happen after that is they're going to reconcile these two. And I'll touch on that a little bit after. But what are these guys trying to do with the Genius Act and Stable Act? Very simply, they are making it law that the banks can actually issue stablecoin, other entities can issue stablecoin, even our Donald Trump issued stablecoin. So there's going to be a lot of competing stablecoins, and at the end of the day, I think we're going to settle on one or two. Right now, obviously, the lead is USDT and USDC. Key here, stablecoins are going to be treated like a currency, not a commodity, not a security, but a currency. That really opens up who oversees this. SEC is not going to oversee this. This is going to be overseen by OCC, which stands for Office of Controller Currency, I believe. And then Federal Reserve or the state, depending on the size of the market cap of each stablecoin, okay? And then just like you have your credit card from your banks, MasterCard, Visa and the banks can issue credit cards that actually you use USDC. You'll be able to go to McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, and actually use your credit card to pay through your wallet, or your credit card simply supports stablecoin. But most people, just like you use Apple Pay and Samsung Pay and Google Pay, you're going to have an option to store your stablecoin and use that. And I think that's what's happening. All right. Now, key in Genius Act as well as Stable Act, it is not FDIC insured. When you go to banks and deposit your USD, up to $250,000 is insured. So in the case bank goes belly up, the federal government will give you $250,000. Now, if you had $500,000, $1 million, those are lost, but at least you have an insurance. But in the case of stablecoin, there is no insurance. And of course, KYC, know your customer, AML, anti-money laundering stuff are all built into these acts, okay? And there's a lot more, but the difference between Genius Act and Stable Acts are very subtle, and they will figure out a way to reconcile them both, okay? So what's next is very simple. What's next is on June 15th, which was yesterday, but it's gonna happen today, is the full House floor is voting. And then June 17th, the full Senate floor is voting. Once they both pass, then the third thing has to happen, which is the reconciliation between Stable Act and Genius Act. So the Congress and Senate will get together, compromise, and come up with one bill that they intend to pass before August recess. Or it could happen in July also, but the latest is August recess. Recess means when these guys go home, all right? And I think it's gonna be presented in front of Donald Trump, who is going to sign it. I guarantee you Donald Trump will sign it because it also benefits him. He has his own USD stablecoin. And so Donald Trump is supporting this. All the banks are supporting it. All these Kraken, Circle, all of these entities are supporting it. And at the end of the day, it is good for US dollar. That's why I put the US dollar in this barbed wire. It's a protection around US dollar because all these stable coins are going to have to hold US dollar. So this is a subtle way, gives USD a little bit more longevity, I believe. So anyhow, guys, I hope you liked the video, and please give me a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe for all the notifications. And this is going to be great for America and great for the world, and certainly great for the cryptocurrency world. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.